to help prevent or treat prostate cancer. A lot of questions around that, and Jeannette has done major work of looking at various supplements, selenium and others in prostate cancer and other cancers. So she'll give us an update on that, Jeannette.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Pete. I'll try and remember it. Please raise your hand in the back if you can't hear me. I'm kind of tall and tend to move away from the microphone a bit. Okay, so I thought I'd start with a gentle introduction since this is the first time you have had a talk specifically on dietary supplements. Well, what is a dietary supplement? So there's 4 main criteria. It's intended to supplement the diet, contains 1 or more dietary ingredients or their constituents. It's intended to be taken by mouth as a pill, capsule, tablet, or liquid, and is labeled on the front panel as being a dietary supplement. Botanicals, herbals are special categories of supplements that also meet these criteria, but they're derived from a plant or plant product. So supplement use in the United States, it's probably no surprise, but it's fairly high in the United States. So more than 50% of adults use supplements, and that tends to increase with age. Among cancer patients, the rate is even higher. There's a variety of reasons that people report for use of supplements. Among cancer patients in the U.S., those tend to be related to boosting the immune system, improving overall health and survival, relieving symptoms of treatment, and treatment and cure in and of itself. The supplement industry is a huge global industry, and there's currently more than 90,000 products on the market. In the U.S. alone, Americans spend more than $30 billion annually on these products. So what is the evidence to support this enthusiasm for the use of these products? Well, our understanding of the role of dietary supplements in cancer development relies primarily on experiments that have been done in animals and cells. From these studies, we have learned about the mechanisms of action of these nutrients, many of which are involved in these pathways labeled here: antioxidation, antiproliferation, inhibition of angiogenesis, which is the development of blood vessels thought to be needed to grow a cancer. And this preliminary evidence from these types of studies has really supported the rationale for many of the large randomized trials that have been conducted to date. So over the past couple of decades, there have been a number of high-quality trials that have been conducted on dietary supplements. Unfortunately, most have yielded disappointing results with respect to their chemoprotective potential for supplements. So this table just gives you a brief summary of the major studies that have been conducted, the supplement being investigated, and their primary outcomes related to prostate cancer on the right. As you can see, the majority have really reported either no association, or a couple have reported a reduction in risk of prostate cancer that is limited to specific subsets of the population. But you can also see there's a number in there that have actually found surprising evidence of harm. Multivitamins are also ones that we've found an increased risk with. So multivitamins are typically thought to be a little bit more safe. They contain lower levels of vitamins and minerals. But what we see here from a couple of studies, Dr. Neuhauser discussed the AARP cohort, that men who take that use high levels of supplements, so more than 7 times a week they take a multivitamin, actually have a 40% increase in the risk of advanced cancer and a 2-fold increase in the risk of fatal cancer. So here in the selenium and vitamin E cancer trial, Dr. Neuhauser and I are actually doing some analyses, and we find similar kind of results where we're looking at the historical use of supplements among men who enroll in this study, and find that men who report longer term use, 5 years or more, have a slight but significant increased risk of high-grade prostate cancer. This is not published yet. We're still working through these analyses. There's also growing evidence that more may not be better. So in the SELECT trial, again, for selenium on the left, when you look at men who started and enrolled in this study who had the highest levels of selenium status at study entry, so that would represent Q4 and Q5, you look at, for those random or assigned to the selenium arm of that trial who already had high selenium status, the risk of high-grade prostate cancer was nearly twofold for those men, compared to men who were assigned to the placebo arm of that trial. A similar but slightly different finding was found in the AARP cohort, where men who reported taking a high single supplement, in this case it was vitamin E, and also a multivitamin, had a higher risk of any prostate cancer compared to men who reported a lower dose of or no vitamin E supplementation. So the bottom line from this evidence is stating that supplement use can cause harm among people who have either high or adequate background nutrient status or that use other supplements. So randomized trials to date have pretty much focused on vitamins and minerals related to that are essential. So there's growing interest in some of the non-essential nutrients and herbals and botanicals. Lycopene is one of those examples, and I thought I'd just kind of give you a flavor of what kind of research is going on in, with respect to looking at the potential role of lycopene in prostate cancer development. This research is kind of in its infancy, but I'll walk through what has been done to date. So lycopene, if you may know, is a carotenoid. It's responsible for the bright red kind of fruits and vegetables, the most notably tomatoes. A few years back, there were several randomized trials or several population-based studies that reported that men who consume higher levels of tomatoes have a much lower risk of prostate cancer. So that really kind of was the impetus for a lot of this research that's now being done. So in a population of men with high-grade PIN, which is an abnormality in the prostate gland which they think precedes prostate cancer, men have undergone supplementation, and there's really mostly found no impact of lycopene on some of these markers of PSA, progression to cancer, or other markers related to prostate cancer development. When we've looked at lycopene supplement trials in men with prostate cancer, you see similar things for men diagnosed with low-grade cancer that are on active surveillance or watchful waiting, men who have metastatic or hormone refractory disease, really not much of an indication of an effect. But there's been several pre-prostatectomy studies where men who are undergoing a prostatectomy or scheduled to undergo prostatectomy are, in this case, they focus on food-based forms of the supplement. And they actually seem to show a little bit more of an effect on tumor volume, PSA, and some markers related to prostate cancer outcomes. So I wouldn't be a nutritionist or a dietitian if I didn't kind of give you some caution about some of these products as well. So supplements can interact with medications, and they can interact with the way they are metabolized, the way they are absorbed, medications are absorbed, or even work synergistically. One common example is some of the botanicals that have antiplatelet aggregation activities, like ginkgo, ginseng, and garlic, and turmeric is another one. So these have antiplatelet type activities, and when taken in conjunction with things like aspirin or warfarin, who also act in the same way, they can actually enhance the risk of bleeding in patients. Another kind of example of these types of effects are like St. John's wort is commonly used for its purported antidepressive activity, but St. John's wort actually increases the metabolism of certain drugs, so it reduces the activity of the drug within the body. So all this is to say, make sure you talk to your physicians or your healthcare providers and let them know what you're taking. Another caution that I wanted to make sure people knew about was that dietary supplements are really not very regulated. So unlike the food drugs, manufacturers do not have to provide any supportive evidence of safety or efficacy in humans before these can go to market. So they can basically be put on shelves. Furthermore, the FDA, which actually oversees supplements, has little resources to monitor the safety of these products. They really rely on clinicians and patients to report issues with supplements. So there are some laws around regulating the labels. So you can't say that they are used to treat, diagnose, cure, or mitigate any disease. But there's this gray area where they are allowed to say that they can they support healthy function of certain bodily functions. And so many customers and consumers interpret these as being scientifically proven when they are actually not. There are ways to find higher quality supplements. So if you do take a supplement, look for one of these labels. These labels indicate that the supplement was tested by an external testing group, and it has proven to have the amount of labeled active ingredients in it. It's absent of any contaminants or any ingredients that shouldn't be there. It's digestible in your body, and that it was manufactured in a safe way. So as far as the current recommendations, I wanted to highlight there have been two recent independent expert panels that have reviewed the literature surrounding supplements and cancer risk. And at this time, they say both have concluded that there's really limited evidence to suggest a chemoprotective effect for supplements. In fact, both have acknowledged that there's a possibility of an increasing risk for some certain cancers with some supplements, beta-carotene being one of them. In both of these cases, neither task force has specifically mentioned supplementation in nutrient-deficient populations, which is a different case. But what they do highlight is that a good, healthy, well-balanced diet is really the most beneficial thing you can do. And supplementation, in addition to that, is likely of little benefit. So for those people who are interested in learning more, this information is on my slides, obviously, but there's two great resources that you can find. General supplement information or information about specific supplements you might be interested in. And I like to highlight scientifically based evidence, of which all of this is. So thank you for your time and attention.
I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions for Jeannette in the Q&A period. So our next speaker is Dr. Jeannette, who's in the Department of Urology. He's a urologist. There's much to learn from understanding why certain groups or populations are disproportionately affected with prostate cancer in terms of either its incidence or aggressive behavior. So you're going to hear a bit about that this morning.